Hello and welcome to another episode of Connecting the Dollars. My name is Emily Augusto. I'm a CPA and financial advisor with Propel Financial Advisors.
I'm Amanda Bott, attorney and financial advisor at Propel.
Today we are going to discuss owning rental property and or renting out a portion of your home, or if you're thinking about renting a home, basically just the work and time that it takes, liabilities and risks, and some tax consequences that you may not be thinking of before you rent out your home. So, Amanda, if you wouldn't mind starting, what are your thoughts on becoming a landlord? I know you
Yeah,
haven't been one.
I never want to be a landlord. But it is a question we get fairly frequently from our clients. They either want to convert their current home into a rental or a partial rental, say rent out their basement or some other type of apartment within the home, or they want to say move to a new place and instead of selling their old place, rent out their old place. And so it's, I think some people have this idea that it's going to be the straightforward kind of simple thing to do. I don't know where that idea comes from because it does have some significant legal and tax implications when you do things like this. And I think a lot of people don't take those into account. And so those are the kind of things we wanted to address today. Um, Not to say that you shouldn't do this. For some people, it can make sense to do it, but it's just let's consider the potential risks and financial impacts in advance so that you're prepared in the event that something goes awry.
Yes, definitely. We hear a lot. I mean, especially if you're like watching HTV or HGTV or something like that, it makes renting and home kind of renovation decor stuff very like exciting, and they make it look easy. But in reality, it's definitely a big responsibility. As sort of as Amanda mentioned, like it's a lot of extra work. And if you don't tell your tax advisor and do some planning before tax season comes around, it may actually be a little not what you're expecting. I feel like a lot of people expect that either way you're going to be making money, or like your renters are paying for your mortgage as you go. But what if you can't find any renters? What if there's a major repair that you needed? I think a lot of realtors kind of want to push, or at least in my city, I've experienced directly, and some of my friends have experienced wanting to buy like a two flat or a three flat, some kind of multi-family home. And they think like, oh, this is great. I'm going to get this rent and it's going to take care of my mortgage. But at the same time, you have to prepare for those unexpected moments. Yeah, there's just
Yeah,
so much. What about the legal liabilities there?
yeah. When once you start renting out your property, you're it's not technically a business. It's like a passive business, but it is a lot of work. And there are legal consequences if you don't have the proper insurance in place. If you have a tenant you have an issue with, who isn't paying the rent and you have to initiate eviction proceedings, right, as an extreme example, right, that's going to increase your cost significantly to have a lawyer, to have somebody in your space who isn't paying rent potentially while this proceeding is going on. It can really backfire. And, that's sort of the exception. I don't think many people experience that, but enough people do where you have to prepare yourself in case that happens. Um, and then at least in New York City, and I know in Chicago as well, there's a lot of laws that you have to follow when you have a tenant. There's a lot of tenant protection things. There's different fire codes and all like a lot of stuff you have to keep up with, right? And
Yes.
some advice we say is that there is a big learning curve to being a landlord, and it is possible to do, but once you do acquire that knowledge and kind of figure it out, it makes sense if you want to be a landlord for multiple properties, right? Like three or four. Otherwise you're spending a lot of time on a rental, and really if you divide the hours by the amount of money you're making, it, might be closer to minimum wage than you think. Um, and so that's why taking that knowledge and spreading it over multiple properties can be a more cost-effective way if becoming a landlord is something that you're really interested in doing.
Yes. I see, and then looking at the tax section of things, the tax part of things. So on paper, you may feel like, you're getting this rental income and it's covering your expenses and whatnot at the time. But when it comes to taxes, most people are not really making money on your rental.
Yeah, there's a lot of losses, right?
Yes. Yeah. And so, yeah, so and on the tax side of things, it's kind of a mixed bag. If you make money on your rental, so if you have more rental income and you don't spend as much on upkeep and whatnot, you have to take that income or you're going to pay ordinary income tax on that income. And if you're over a certain income limit and you don't make money on the property, you can't take those losses. So it's kind of like not necessarily a serious lose-lose situation, but it's not really a win-win situation on paper. So if you think of your rental more as a business, and you decide to sell the property, you will have to pay taxes not only on the gain that you get from the sale price, but also you have to, there's this thing called depreciation recapture, and it's kind of like I hear this term and I'm like, oh, I don't want to deal with it. Like, it's a CPA, it makes me kind of like cringe. I don't know. I understand it. It's just kind of like this unexpected thing that a lot of people don't know about. So if you sell a rental property, you have to recapture some depreciation and pay ordinary income tax on that amount. It varies from person to person. It depends on how much you've depreciated the property, how much you've, how long you've had the property, et cetera. So that's something that a lot of people are not aware of. So definitely, if you're thinking about starting a rental property or you have started a rental property, talk with a tax professional. And also remember that tax professionals cost money. You really need a tax professional to do a proper rental property form for your taxes. We've seen a lot of people who have done it themselves and have either left money on the table that they should have gotten back or been able to deduct, or they've just done it in some kind of crazy way that is just not right at all, unfortunately. The IRS does scrutinize rental properties, probably not to the extent that they could, quite honestly. But you really don't want to just show like, okay, I rented this out for 2 months and then I stopped. Like, that's not really a proper way to do things. If you are thinking about, again, if you're thinking about renting a property or if you're moving and you're thinking about renting out your old property, there are definitely some pros and cons, a lot of things that that's not talked about. Like I said earlier, kind of this whole rental property, investment property is kind of glamorized a lot. So, yeah, make sure you're really taking a look at all the details.
Yeah, I think depreciation recapture is the one that really sneaks up on people and can really burn. Because aren't you responsible for that? Even if you don't sell your property, even if you just convert it from a rental back to personal use, you haven't sold the property and made money on it, but then all of a sudden you get this depreciation recapture bill.
Yeah, it's
Um,
tricky.
yeah, nobody likes to get a big tax bill from the IRS. I feel like that's a universal. So but if you know about it and plan for it in advance, it won't sneak up on you. So
Exactly. Well, hopefully this was helpful and gave you some things to think about if you are in that stage of thinking about renting. Yeah, find us on Instagram, Facebook, our website, propelfinancialadvisors.com, connectingthedollars.com. We're here for any questions, and you can always work with us if you are considering becoming a landlord.